You are listening to the Bonfires and Castles podcast with Tiffany Apan, the place where fantasy, history, and other worlds collide to take you on a magical journey. Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of the Bonfires and Castles podcast. In this episode, we are continuing with the Haunted History series. Last week, we visited the Depreciation Lands Museum in Allison Park, Pennsylvania, and this week, we travel to another town in Pennsylvania, the very famous Gettysburg, PA. There is much to tell, so sit back, grab a beverage, and join me as we travel to one of the most haunted towns in America. Gettysburg's history is steeped in war and tragedy. It is where the very bloody Battle of Gettysburg took place, and also where President Abraham Lincoln gave his famous speech, known as the Gettysburg Address. United we stand, divided we fall. It is also where many have experienced unexplained and paranormal activity. Many of these stories are woven deep into the history of Gettysburg. I will share some common lore and sightings, and then share a little of my own experiences in Gettysburg. The story of Jennie Wade. Jennie Wade was only 20 years old at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg. As her fiancé was fighting in the war, she, like many other women and individuals not involved with fighting in the battles, volunteered her time and efforts to aid the soldiers and also keep the local economy going. One morning at 8 a.m. on July 3rd, Jennie was kneading dough in the kitchen when a stray bullet pierced its way through two doors and ended her life. She was the only direct civilian casualty of the battle. As the story goes, her mother heard her fall and went to tell her other daughter, Georgia, of what happened. Two Union soldiers who were stationed upstairs assisted with burying Jennie in the backyard of the McClellan house, a temporary resting place. Today, her final resting place is in the Evergreen Cemetery in Gettysburg. The following day, on July 4th, Jennie's mother used the dough her daughter had been kneading, finishing what her daughter started. In 1882, Jennie's mother also received a pension due to her daughter having lost her life while serving the Union cause. Today, you can tour the Jennie Wade House, which also includes some artifacts from that fateful day, and much of its original construction remains. Many visitors have claimed to see Jennie Wade's ghost at different parts of the house. Some report seeing a woman in a long dress walking through the rooms and corridors. Paranormal investigators have also caught images and experienced temperature drops on their investigations. Some also report to random smells of freshly baked bread. There is also a legend of how if a woman sticks her left-hand ring finger into one of the bullet holes that were left by the bullets that claimed Jennie Wade's life, she will be proposed to very soon after. And some women have indeed confirmed this to have happened. Some believe this being due to Jennie's own marriage being brought to a halt due to her untimely death, and she wants to assist with true love from the beyond. The Shriver House. The Shriver House has been restored to help visitors learn of civilians caught in the crossfire and what their lives were like during the Battle of Gettysburg. As you venture further in, you become immersed in the story of the family, George, Hetty, Sadie, and Molly. Each room is a testament to what life as a Gettysburg civilian during the war was like. Every room is frozen in time to life during the 1860s. At least 2 soldiers were killed in the attic, and the house was also used as a hospital. And what's interesting and unique about the tour is that it actually does not focus really on hauntings at all. Instead, the tour guides and those that run the Shriver House choose to focus more on the story of those that lived there, and I can definitely understand why. I have visited the Shriver House, and honestly, seeing all artifacts and rooms furnished as they were during the mid-19th century is certainly a haunting experience in itself. And last but definitely not least, the Farnsworth House. The Farnsworth House is considered Gettysburg's haunted address and has been called one of the most haunted houses in America. It has been under several different ownerships. Today, it stands as a bed and breakfast, so stay overnight if you dare, or have dinner in their lovely dining area and take a tour. It's definitely worth it. The original house was built in 1810, followed by the brick structure we see today in 1833. The house sheltered Confederate sharpshooters during the war, and it is said that one of these sharpshooters was the one to fire the bullet that claimed the life of Jennie Wade. The house also served as a hospital, which is discussed if you take their cellar tour. John McFarland was the original owner, and the inn was named for General Elon John Farnsworth, who led the ill-fated charge after Pickett's charge, one that claimed his own life, along with many others. Sweeney's Tavern is also a restaurant within the Farnsworth Inn, and it is named for Harvey Sweeney, who, according to locals, was a rather unsavory character. He also owned the house during the Battle of Gettysburg. In fact, guests of the Farnsworth House have reported to having not so pleasant experiences when staying at the inn overnight and having the unfortunate experience of running into Harvey Sweeney. There are several other residents, if you will, that have been seen by several guests that have dared to stay within the Farnsworth House. Let us meet some of these residents, shall we? These residents include Mary, who is described as a matronly woman that keeps the other ghosts in line and visits with any visitors that are feeling perhaps under the weather. Walter, a red-bearded Confederate Civil War soldier. Nan, a midwife. Billy, a little boy from the 1950s who grew into adulthood but never really had a childhood. Then there's Jeremy, a little boy who had his life claimed, unfortunately and tragically, by a horse-drawn carriage during the 19th century. Then there's Sissy, a little girl from the very early 20th century. She is described as having long, curly blonde hair. Her life was claimed by respiratory failure. Florence was a 19-year-old woman who gave birth to a child that unfortunately did not come out alive. Elizabeth, or Lizzie, she's the ghost who moved into the house with her mortal family. She passed away in 1883. Lieutenant Jackson, who cares for the mortally wounded comrade within the cellar. And then there's the dying comrade, and his cries can actually be heard in the cellar, late at night if you happen to venture down there. Then there's William, Jeremy's grief-stricken father. And then, last but not least, Jennie Wade. Guests have also reported to hearing the sounds of creaking footsteps in the hall, impressions of someone sitting on the bed, soft touches on the face, a crying child said to possibly be Jeremy or perhaps even Sissy, a laughing child often credited to Jeremy, and whispering voices that no one can really place. Then there's the Sarah Black room, which is said to be a very highly spirited room. In fact, Jeremy has often been seen and heard in this room. People that wish him well often bring him gifts such as toys and candy. In return, Jeremy is said to be a very mischievous child and entertains them with his own little jokes, such as hiding their cell phones, stacking coins up on the dresser, unplugging certain electrical devices, turning on water faucets on and off, and his voice has actually been recorded several times by investigators. Then there is the infamous wedding dress in the Sarah Black room. On several occasions, some guests have reported to the wedding dress in the corner becoming highly animated with the sleeves of the dress flailing about wildly through the air. There have even been reports of the dress actually coming to life and floating about the room. And now, I will tell you an experience that I had in Gettysburg. I have stayed at a couple different inns in Gettysburg, one being the Bechtel Victorian Mansion, and the other a Sentimental Journey, which is actually literally right next door to the Farnsworth House. Now, at the Bechtel Victorian Mansion, I did hear several footsteps walking around in the hallway late at night, and nobody was out walking around. In fact, the other guests also reported to hear the same thing. And I did see a couple of things out of the corner of my eye, probably likely a previous inhabitant of the house. And the owners of the Bechtel Victorian Mansion did confirm that there are 8 ghosts, the entire Bechtel family, that still resides within the mansion. And while staying at the Sentimental Journey bed and breakfast, I honestly actually didn't really have any experiences there, despite it being right next door to the Farnsworth House. But it is still a very, very nice place to stay in, very cozy, very quaint, very period, as it's called the Sentimental Journey bed and breakfast. So I also recommend staying there. That's a really good place. Though, like I said, I didn't experience anything really out of the ordinary there. But the Bechtel Victorian Mansion, I did. Now, when I was on a ghost tour, we were walking around, obviously, and the storyteller was actually doing, Miss Betty's ghost tours, I believe it's called, and she was actually doing a very good job. I went on her tour and a Farnsworth House tour. And on her tour, though, when we came to one of the battlefields, and this was at night, of course, because all these tours are, you're walking around late at night. We started to hear, this sound that almost sounded like, for a second, it sounded like motorcycles starting up. So at first we didn't think anything of it. None of the group did. We thought perhaps maybe, some motorcycles are going to be passing, but No motorcycles ever did pass us. However, the sound continued, and the sound continued to get even louder. And the more we listened, and even the tour guide started to pause what she was talking about, pause her story. And as we all listened, the louder the noise got, and the more it sounded like cannons being shot across the battlefield. Now, this was late at night, so there were no reenactments going on. And there were no fireworks or anything like that going on, nothing like that happening. And there weren't any speakers around or anything that could explain, this was a pretty wide open field. And there was really nothing to explain where those noises could be coming from. But again, they sounded like cannons, like an entire war was being fought right as we stood. And there are some theories for that. Some say that, especially in a place like Gettysburg, where a lot of very traumatic events took place, sometimes there is almost like residual energy. So the imprints of whatever happened there is basically etched in time. And the residual energy is causing you to listen or possibly even experience what the people that lived in that time went through. And then others just say, hey, it's paranormal, the ghosts reliving what they went through. Others say that and this is where it gets a little trippy, where we're actually how time doesn't really exist. And what we're witnessing is basically the clash, basically the clashing of different time periods and everything. It's all happening around us. But that we can get very deep into that. And I am actually, I do kind of agree with that theory. I do think that, that is very possible. But that's something for another, for another time, because we can get so deep into that. And some say that that there are some malevolent entities out there. And I do think sometimes that is the case. But other times I also think that it could be, one of those other three, either residual energy, perhaps a, collaboration of different times and spaces kind of crossing through each other, and sometimes just human ghosts that may not realize that they have deceased yet. But with that all said, I hope you enjoyed this new installment of Bonfires and Castles and our Haunted History series. Join me again next week as we take a trip to Monongahela, Pennsylvania, our last Pennsylvania episode on a woman known as the Monongahela Witch. But until then, take care, be safe, and I will see you somewhere in time. Sleeping mother's warm embrace. Mother looks out toward the sky as she hears the lullaby. Two young girls have found their home, found warmth inside the cold. Tonight they'll bring joy to a child. Tonight, sleeping in